but that's okay. I mean, there are certainly lots of very, very senior church people who do believe in evolution, and so there is a broad, I mean, there are those, and there are others who are not bishops, but who are scientists or also Christian, or also Jews, and who believe in evolution, but who think that the idea of God kind of intervening in this sort of conjuring trick way is rather blasphemous. I mean, I know evolutionist colleagues who are also devout Christians who think that it's to the greater glory of God to study the way science actually is, rather than to try to bring God in as a kind of magician who kind of, you know, waves a wand and things happen.
Yeah,
Isn't that rather
I
demeaning
think,
to
I
God?
think, and that is a misinterpretation, misframing of what we believe. We believe that God can and does intervene throughout history and in life. And we see that as like a loving father that's involved in his family and his children. It's not that the father is dictating everything to his children, what they can and cannot do. As a Christian, I believe in free will, that God created us with the ability to make our own decisions. Some of those decisions are bad decisions, some are good. And so to say that God intervenes in our lives, even in the creation, well, perhaps even especially in the creation of our life, is reflecting a belief in a very loving God.
Yes. And there are others who'd say that God set up the laws of physics, the laws of the universe, and he did it in such a cunning way that when the time came, evolution got going and eventually produced us. Isn't that a rather grand and noble vision of God?
It is, and in fact, we believe that as well. We believe that science is unlocking the mysteries of the laws put in place by God, that God created this earth with certain laws like the law of gravity to allow it to function, and that science is actually is discovering and unlocking the secrets of the laws that God put in place.
Among which are evolution, which follows from the laws of chemistry and physics under the right conditions.
So,
and that could be the working out of God's purpose, couldn't it? Couldn't evolution be the working out of God's purpose?
And there are many people who do believe that God does use a form of creation where evolution is a part of that. The evolution of back up on that. That there are people, there are many people who do believe that God intervenes in this world and uses various laws like gravity or progression to create a more stable world, a better world. So I don't think that there is much, I don't think there should be as much dissension between our camps, that we can come to respect one another. In fact, we do. We respect evolutionists for their beliefs. What we would hope is that there would be as much respect on the evolutionist part toward us so that we could have a dialogue without being reduced to ad hominem attacks and accusing others of having hidden, secret, hostile agendas.
I don't want to be respected for my beliefs. I want you to respect the facts. I want you to look at the facts. Don't respect me. I don't want respect. I want you to go to museums and look at the facts, and don't believe what you've been told that there is no evidence. Just go and look at the evidence.
Yes, and
it's
what
not
I would
funny.
say...
I mean, really, go and... I've told you about hominid fossils. You can go and look at the evolution of the horse. You can go and look at the evolution of the early mammals. You can go and look at the evolution of fish. You can go and look at the transition from fish to land-living amphibians and reptiles. Any of those things you'll find in any good museum. Just open your eyes and look at the facts.
And I would say open your eyes and see the communities that have been built by those who believe in a loving God who created each one of us. And what I find is that is the kind of world that most of us would want to live in, one in which there is a deep respect for other human beings because they were created by a loving God. However that creation came about, you could have your beliefs, we can have our beliefs, and both can be based on different, on evidence, even the same evidence. But I think fundamentally, where our differences come down to is whether there was a creator or whether there was not a creator.
I liked one phrase you used there. You talked about the sort of society in which we wish to live. And I'll tell you quite freely that a society based upon Darwinian principles is exactly the sort of society I do not wish to live in. It would be a terrible society. It would be a sort of George Bush kind of society, if I can put it like that, or Margaret Thatcher kind of society. I do not wish to live in a Darwinian world. I do, however, respect facts, and I do recognize that the facts of science show that the world of nature is a Darwinian world. It's a very unpleasant world. It's a thoroughly unpleasant world, not the kind of world we wish to live in. So let us understand it so that we can construct the kind of society in which we wish to live, which will be a non-Darwinian society, with a sort of society which departs from Darwinian principles. A society that was based on Darwinian principles would be a ruthless, free market economy in which the rich trample the poor, in which it would be a sort of opposite of a liberal socialist society, in fact. In a way, I'm rather surprised, if we're talking politics, that the right wing in America is so hostile to Darwin. If we're going to be naive about applying science to politics, you ought to be in favour of Darwin. And I'm against Darwin where politics is concerned, but you cannot argue with scientific facts.
You actually helped to make my case quite well, and that is that a philosophy that is drawn out of Darwinism would be extremely brutal. And in fact has been. That has been the experience.
I've just said that. I've agreed with that.
And yes. That's why the societies that have been built on a viewpoint that God created each one of us, however he did it, that's part of the science of unlocking, of discovering how that was done. But recognizing that there is a loving creator helps to build a society that is more than just livable, but pleasant. At Concerned Women for America, we have state chapters and even more local chapters. And one of the things they've been involved in is the debate over teaching evolution or intelligent design in the schoolrooms. And the position we've taken is teach the controversy. Teach all the information, not just selected information that promotes one viewpoint, which most of the times that's evolution. But let's teach all the information so that the school children can learn how to think for themselves and come to their own conclusions.
Nobody could possibly object to teaching children to think for themselves.
I wish that were the case, that people would not object to teaching all the information or teaching children in a manner so they can think for themselves. But sadly, there's been a very heavy-handed effort in the United States to clamp down, not allow any teaching that is contrary to evolution, even to the point of court orders.
When you say teach the controversy, it would be nice. I mean, of course, scientists teach controversies all the time. There's a lot of controversy in science. There's evidence on one side, there's evidence on the other side. In this case, however, we have a very large amount of evidence in favor of evolution. But the evidence on the other side is not evidence in favor of anything else. It's actually looking for little gaps. It's looking for little things that allegedly evolution can't explain. Say, look, we found something they can't explain. That must mean God did it. That's not really, doesn't sound like science, does it? That sounds like looking for gaps.
If it's evidence, then scientists should be in favor of teaching evidence, even if they may discount the evidence, even if they think it's inconsequential. As a scientist, scientists should be committed to teaching truth.
Yes, but I think you didn't understand what I said. I said on the one side there is evidence. On the other side there is a looking for apparent lack of evidence. There is no positive
But that is
evidence,
what science is about. Science is taking a theory and challenging it to see if it can stand up.
That's right.
And so while people may not like when the evidence doesn't stand up to further testing, but that's what science is about.
Yes, well, that is what science is about, but there are no cases known to me, at least, where science, where it doesn't stand up. I mean, there are cases where work needs to be done, and of course science flourishes on finding places where more work needs to be done. That's how science advances.
Mm-hmm. As you mentioned, what's known to you. And I think that's why we need variety of people looking at theories and challenging it, because if it's one person who's dictating what can be challenged or can't, or what evidence is substantial or not, then we have a dictatorship. In science, scientists should be free to challenge theories and not be hemmed in, not be restricted by the current zeitgeist of those who are almost the high priests of science of that day.
Well, that of course is right. I mean, I agree with that. But can you point to any positive scientific evidence in favor of creation?
I think the fact, as you pointed out, DNA, I think DNA helps to show that each one of us are individuals. And
yes, but they have to be individuals
distinct.
for evolution to work. I mean,
I don't think that's the case. I think
Well,
that
I'm
the
very
fact
sorry,
that
but it
each one,
is.
I think that each one of us are distinct, that no two of us are exactly alike, that helps to show that there is some intervention at the point of each person's creation.
Do you know about